It's Brandon here. Welcome to this week's episode of the Better Life Podcast. Now, if you're new here, you should know that this episode is a little bit different than most of the ones that we put out, but it's going to be super valuable. In fact, I think you're actually going to love it. And if you've been here a while, or like you're an avid listener, you know that sometimes I like to put out these episodes where actually I am the guest on somebody else's show. And that is exactly what today's episode is. So today, you're going to hear from me from an interview I did with my friend Tanner on the Winning Balance podcast. I specifically wanted to share this one with all of y'all because, it's a lot more about like my personal journey to where I am today. So I know that sometimes newer investors they can hear how I own, 14,000 rental units, and it feels like way too distant or unrelatable. So, I want to share with you guys a little bit more about the journey and like kind of the raw, unfiltered way that I got from zero to where I am today. That plus we talk a lot about not just how to build a better portfolio, but also how to build a better life, kind of the systems and mindsets and approaches that I do outside of work. So listen and enjoy. And if you find this episode valuable, be sure to share it with a friend and come back for more next week. Now, without further ado, let's get into it.
Welcome to the Winning Balance podcast. We are met with a guest that I did not anticipate getting this early on in this journey. So I'm super pumped about this one. Brandon Turner is our guest today.
Oh my gosh, you got Brandon Turner?
Brandon Turner.
What?
The Brandon
The
Turner.
Brandon Turner.
So this is a fun story, Brandon. I talk about this in a sense that you were the first real estate voice in my head.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. It's funny because, seeing where you've come from now and that sort of start of your journey.
Yeah.
My first step was Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which I know you talk about a lot. And then the second step was BiggerPockets.
Yeah.
So I just was absorbing, using their calculator to analyze hundreds and hundreds of deals until I found the one. So that's awesome. Is my introduction to Brandon. And then we actually met at InvestorCon in Utah.
Yep.
What was that? 2-3 months ago?
Yeah.
Could have been 6. My timelines are so off.
Mine are too. We both have young kids. So
exactly.
Every day is just a blur, but
100%.
Yeah. It was a few months ago, whenever that was.
Yeah, whenever that was. So in today's podcast, like we do a lot with the Winning Balance, I'd love to introduce Brandon, my version of who I think what your journey has done.
Yeah, let's hear it.
And you're going to correct me if
right.
I'm off. And then hearing about his journey to 13,000 plus units now.
14,000.
14,000. I see. This is where I need you to correct me. Where
I got to update my bio a little bit.
Yeah, there's so many out there. Like I said, my first introduction to Brandon was that podcast. To me, it felt like that was almost a startup, right? BiggerPockets at that time. I'd love to hear how Brandon Turner, who I see as a family man, who I view as a real estate expert, you grew from, at the time that I was listening, someone with 30 units, a podcast host, and here you are raising millions of dollars of capital, 14,000 units, change your asset class, which is something that I have been interested in, and then also keeping family as a priority. No one's perfect in how you manage family and in that balance, but that's what I'd love to dive into, Brandon. So would you like to add anything to that bio that I just threw together?
No, that was great, man. That's my story. Yeah. I started the podcast when I had 30 units, and I left when I had 10,000, and now I'm at 14,000. And it was a wild ride. And I think that's why people enjoyed listening along the way, because they got to, I was just one of them. Like the average BiggerPockets user, and now the Better Life podcast, which is very similar to my new show, the average listener has about 30 units. In fact, in the Better Life Tribe, which I run, it's like my charity mastermind, I think it's 28 or 32 units is our average number of units, which means most people are just me. And most people your vibe attracts your tribe. So people got to watch along the way. And obviously I got some unfair help up handouts along the way, being on the biggest real estate podcast in the world, which allowed me to scale that much more rapidly. But yeah, that's me. So
how'd you get introduced to BiggerPockets? Where did that even start?
Yeah, so BiggerPockets is a funny story. A lot of people think I started the show. I started the show, but I didn't start the network. I guess we even call it the website, the brand. So I Googled very first property I ever bought, about a house. I decided I'm not going to law school anymore. I like this house thing. This is cool. I'm going to be a real estate guy. Told my dad. My dad's like, don't do that. Like, you're going to lose all your money. Like, he asked me a question. What are you going to do if tenants don't pay rent? And I was like, I don't know. What am I going to do? I have no idea. So I go to Google and I type in what to do when tenants don't pay rent. And up pops this little forum called BiggerPockets. And I was on there, and I don't remember exactly what it said, but I just remember thinking, oh, there's hope. Like, there's answers to all these negative Nancys out there. Sorry, Dad. But like negative fathers out there who are like, this isn't going to work because of X, Y, Z, right? And I'm like, oh, there's answers. And then I'm like, there's a whole community. And there was like 10,000 people on that website at the time. Today, there's millions, but it was the first few years of it. So there was like 10,000 people engaging in the forums and writing articles. And so that's how I got to know BiggerPockets. And a few years later, I started a blog. It was called realestateinyour20s.com. I just looked the other day and I think it finally went kaput somehow. I don't know. I didn't renew some domain or something. I don't know. But yeah, I started realestateinyour20s.com. And then to grow that blog, I went and hit up Josh Dorkin, the only guy, like the founder, sole operator of BiggerPockets. And I was like, hey, can I write for you? And he's like, sure. So I volunteered as a writer. And that's, me and Josh became friends. A couple years later, I was like, hey, let's start a podcast. And
that's amazing.
that's where it went.
And then, yeah, I mean, you grew that podcast to be the #1 podcast in the world.
Well, Josh
number one real estate podcast.
Yeah, number one real estate podcast. It was the #2 business podcast most of the time I was there. Just behind Dave Ramsey. It was Dave Ramsey, BiggerPockets, everyone else. Tim Ferriss floated up there, usually. But like, the interesting business lesson in that is that, like, I didn't blow BiggerPockets up, but having me blew BiggerPockets up. And there's a difference there. And I'm not just trying to be humble here. It's like, I didn't actually know what I was doing. It was just the fact that Josh had somebody that would integrate his visionary, that could do the work that he was envisioning, right? And so many times, there's a great book called Rocket Fuel out there. But it's like, sometimes a visionary has big ideas and grand ideas and plans. And entrepreneurs, we're really good at ideas and being excited about things. But when it comes to doing the repetitive, boring work, we all fall apart. Most of us fall apart. So for example, if you look at the real estate space, like, what does it take to actually buy a bunch of real estate deals? You got to make a bunch of offers. You got to analyze a bunch of deals, maybe send out a direct mail marketing. You got to do something for leads, something to analyze them, making offers. You do those things, and then networking to connect with people. But you don't do them once. You do them over and over and over, every day, every week, for years. Entrepreneurs suck at doing things every day for years. So Josh was the entrepreneur, didn't do the stuff every day for years. He just was building and visioning. So when I came on board, he was like, hey, I want you to write a blog post on the internet for another person's blog and point back to BiggerPockets. We're going to build some backlinks, it was called back in the day. So I'm like, okay. So I just did that 200 times. Like, I just, like, for like a year or two, that's all. Every day I'd pitch people, can I write an article for your site? And then link back to BiggerPockets. And I just wrote and wrote and wrote.
Was this a volunteer role still at this point?
Around at that point, I started getting paid for it.
Okay, I was going to say, that's all.
Once I started aggressively writing the posts, I started getting paid. And then, like, that led into other things like writing for Forbes and Entrepreneur Online and all these websites, because now I'm, like, becoming a decent writer. But it just shows, like, the success comes from doing the work over and over and over. But entrepreneurs are bad at doing the work over and over and over. So the only option is either don't grow or hire a who, like who, not how, hire a who to come do it. So Josh hired me. That's what made BiggerPockets grow. Again, I'm not just trying to act like, humble. It really, like, I didn't even own a computer 6 months before getting a job at BiggerPockets, running one of the largest, like, digital communities in the world. I had no idea what I was doing. I was a complete moron. I got just lucky to get that gig, and probably lied my way into it. But
it's a good partnership, right?
Yeah.
Because they're probably lucky to have a radio personality like you on their show as well, right?
Yeah. So to look at that side, like, it's also incredibly difficult to find somebody who's going to go work 100 hours a week for years and do the boring, repetitive stuff for fairly low pay. Sorry, Josh, but it was like $40K a year. It was like fairly low pay, but also with the experience of owning 30 rental units and being a good writer and being a good communicator. Those are hard things to find. And so had I known my worth, I probably could have demanded a lot more money from someone else. But I have no regrets there. I mean, I didn't have the confidence or a lot of those skills at the time. And having a wife, to go to the family side, having a wife who was okay with that. And this leads to, like, my wife and I built our 30 units that we got up to that point. We did it together, 100% together. I mean, other than the very first house I kind of bought on my own because we weren't married yet. Everything after that was us. Like, she took over property management. We painted every unit ourselves. We got in there and laid flooring. Like we've done demo together. She's great at tile work. Like we learned it together. She could change a water heater. Like she's awesome.
That's amazing.
Yeah, we just did it all together, and that was our adventure. And I'm a big believer in that. Like, not that you have to have a spouse that's on board with you, but it sure is fun when you're doing it together, and you're like, this is our mountain that we're going to climb. We're going to climb this thing together. And I just invited her into my adventure, and she jumped right in, and so we did it together.
That's amazing. And I want to dive more into like the chronological side of your career, but I want to stop there too. And when you're talking about like risk assessment of rental properties, what happens if tenants don't pay? Let's go back to your wife as well. Like, was she involved in the education process, or was she just like, hey, I trust you? Tell me, how did that conversation went? Because there's risks associated, right? So was she involved in those conversations? How did that go?
Yeah, that's a great question. She was involved in a lot of the stuff, but she never learned the business from the acquisition side or even the strategy side. That was always me. She learned the business from the property management side, which maybe that's partially because she wanted to make sure she could, like, if you're going to fail at real estate, it's going to be in the management side. Usually, like, you can buy deals, but if you can't hold them, that's when you lose. So she got good at the one thing that would help us actually hold on to them. But early on, ultimately, to get your spouse on board, to kind of go that way, and to get them comfortable with the risk of real estate, it's not a matter of like answering. It's not a knowledge problem necessarily. It's a mindset problem, and those are two different things, right? Like, you can know the knowledge of if a tenant doesn't pay rent, you have to evict them. You go through a process. It might cost you $2,000. I could tell her that. That might not change how she feels about getting into real estate. She might still be like, ugh, like that's hard. It's a lot of work. There's a lot of risk. It's messy. I don't want to have to do evictions. But if you change the underlying mindset behind that, it's a lot easier. So the way that I did that is I had read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and it changed my life. It put words to what I was like feeling in my soul, right? It was like the whole world's crazy. And then this one guy, Kiyosaki's like, no, this is actually how it is. And I'm like, yeah, he sees it the way I do. Right now, today, Kiyosaki's a little off, but like, don't, sorry, Robert. But he's like crazy eccentric old man now. And, but still, I still think like the entire world's crazy. And like us real estate people are like the only ones that get it, or business entrepreneurship people. Anyway, so that book changed my life. So I asked my wife, I'm like, will you read this? Because I wanted her to have the same mindset. Again, we don't have to have the same roles. We don't have to have the same abilities or whatever, or knowledge. We just need to have the same mindset so we can go in the same direction. She's like, no, I don't read business books. And I'm like, yeah, I know, but it's not a business book. It's changed my life. And she just refused to read it for a long time, until finally I made a bet with her. I was like, hey, or a wager, a gamble, I don't know what you call this. I said, I will read any book you want me to read if you read any book I want you to read. And I want you to read Rich Dad Poor Dad. So do your worst. What am I going to read? And she's like, any book? And I was like, any book. She's like, how about a series? And I was like, what series? She's like, Twilight. So I read all 4 of them, all 4 of the Twilight books. And she read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and she got done with it. She's like, oh, I get it. So now we're on the same mindset. So again, different knowledge. She focused on a different part of it, but we got on the same mindset together, and that changed everything.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's a cool practice. Yeah. I can't even picture what my wife would have me read.
Yeah.
So I got to think that one through. But okay, let's go back to you're building BiggerPockets. You're helping build BiggerPockets. It's going extremely well. You have millions of people tuning in, like myself. Talk to me about that decision of maybe thinking of something bigger for yourself.
Like when, I remember actually where I was. I was on stage at a conference, speaking to real estate syndicators, like big commercial real estate investors and syndicators, apartment owners. And I remember just thinking, like, I got 30 units. I'm like the least qualified person to be in this room, but I can sell tickets. That's why they put me on stage, because I got a big podcast. In other words, like, I don't actually deserve to be here. I'm just the hot girl that will sell tickets. And I was like, I don't want to just be the hot girl. Like, no girl wants to just be the hot girl. They want to be the hot girl that has some abilities. I want to be smart and capable. So I remember thinking, like, I want to deserve to be back here someday, and I'm going to go out and build a commercial real estate business. So that's really what drove me to that. I don't want to just be the guy who teaches it online. I want to be the guy actually doing the work. And I literally went home and I was like, well, what am I going to do? And I thought, one, it doesn't really matter. I'm a big believer that, in fact, I read that in a book around that time. It said, it's usually more important that you decide than what you decide. And so I was like, well, if it doesn't really matter what I do, I'm going to do real estate, obviously, because that's what I'm already into, but I'm just going to do mobile home parks. And I just thought, I'm going to go all in on that because it doesn't really matter. They all work. So let's just pick one and go with it. So I went all in on mobile home parks. I wrote up a vision, big like 2,000 word article I wrote and put it on my wall that just said, we've got $50 million of real estate. We've got this many employees. We make this much money, 1,000 units, whatever. And I said, that's where we're going. And it's amazing when you have a vision, which most people in the world don't. When somebody stands up and says, I know exactly where we're going, everyone's like, yes, like that. Like that's where we're going. In fact, have you read Red Rising?
Mm-mm.
Dude, put it on your book list. It's one of the best books ever written. It's a fiction book, kind of a sci-fi fantasy fiction book, but it's phenomenal. But there's a
Who's
great
the author?
Pierce Brown.
Okay.
Yeah, so good. It's like, think Gladiator or Braveheart in space.
I love it.
So good. Every dude in the world loves it, and most women love it. But anyway, there's a line in that book where the guy says, "Hey, you don't follow me because I'm the smart. You don't follow me because I'm the smartest. You know that person is, and you don't follow me because I'm the strongest. That person is. You don't follow me because I'm the fastest. That person is. You follow me because you do not know where you're going. I do." And it's my favorite line in that book because I'm like, that's what I want. I'm like, I'm never going to be the smartest or the strongest or the fastest or the best communicator. That's not why people follow me. They follow me because they don't know where they're going and I do. And I'm like, we're going here. And the irony is that I don't know where we're going either. But if you realize that the future is a blank canvas, then you are going to go wherever you define that you're going to go. Like, it's not like I'm walking a path that's already been trodden before. I'm just going to go there. And so I was like, all right, where am I going to go? 1,000 units, $50 million of real estate, 6 team members, blah, blah, blah. We're going to do this. And I put it down on paper and all of a sudden now I know where I'm going.
Yeah.
So it's almost like a self-fulfilling kind of thing. It's like, I'm going there because I said I'm going to go there. So it's almost, I don't know. So it's weird. It's like I defined my destiny, but then that was my destiny because I defined it. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense.
Yeah. So most people are afraid to do that though, to put on paper where are they going, to have that vision. So then they're just like everyone else. I don't know where we're going. I don't know. And they don't go anywhere.
That's amazing. So it sounds like, I mean, you thought bigger for yourself. You had the confidence in yourself. What about that conversation with your wife? Was it an easy yes? Was it an easy let's go?
Yeah. You know, it was easy. And it's because I take the garbage out. And what I mean by that is this. Whenever I talk to people about like getting their spouse on board, people ask that question, my spouse isn't on board, or my spouse doesn't really want to do what I want to do, or I want to start this business, my spouse isn't on board. It's usually because they don't take the garbage out. And I use that as like a metaphor, but it's also a reality, is they say they're going to do things in their personal, private life, and then they do not do it. So they have trained their spouse that they are unreliable, non-dependable. Is that a word? Non-dependable, undependable, whatever that word is.
It makes sense in my brain.
Yeah. They are not to be trusted. And they have trained their spouse over and over and over by saying, I'm going to take the garbage out, and then not taking the garbage out. So if you do that year after year after year and week after week and day after day and all that, and then you say, hey, I got this idea, I'm going to go build this business, you have already set yourself up to be untrusted with that. So of course I'm not going to support the other person because I don't believe that they're going to do what they say they're going to do because they never do what they say they're going to do. How you do anything is how you do everything. And so like, I'm not saying I'm the perfect at this, but generally speaking, if I tell my wife I'm going to do something, I always do it. And she's seen that in how I deal with other people. I mean, how many, like numerous times where like I just in life, like I might lose money or time or whatever, but I said I'm going to do it, so I'm going to do it. I tell a friend I'm going to help move. I'm going to help move. I'm not going to just cancel last minute because I don't want to. So anyway, so it became an easier pitch to Heather. It was like, hey, I'm going to go build this big business. She's like, all right. And in fact, I would argue, and I'm probably getting myself in some hot water here, maybe a little bit, but by generalizing. So I'll put a disclaimer out there. This is not all women and men. People are different, blah, blah, blah. But generally speaking, women want a guy who's decisive and knows where they're going. Like a woman wants to generally, I believe most women or a lot of women want to be led. They want to be told, we are going here, let's go. And it's like, I think that actually did more for our marriage than in most things I could possibly do, because all of a sudden she's like, oh yes, let's go. Like this is an adventure. Let's do it together. Like what's more attractive, a guy or a girl, who's just like, yeah, I don't really know what I want to do in life. And I like everything. Or somebody who's like, I'm going to build whatever the thing is. In fact, Heather tells me that the reason she first started liking me is because I told her in our very first conversation, someday I'm going to be a U.S. senator. Now, I don't want to do that anymore. Like, I have no desire for that whatsoever. I went and did a political internship in college and I hated it. But apparently I told her I'm going to be a US Senator someday. And she said she found that so attractive and appealing. Not because she doesn't like politics. She's like, that guy knows where he's going. I want to go with that guy. And so I'm a big believer in like having a vision, especially if you're the dude, have a vision for your family, for your future, and then bring your spouse along on that adventure.
Yeah, that's so cool. I have a question for my personal life, Brandon, that I'd love your insight on. You ready for this?
I'm worried.
Yeah. Okay. I feel like I have established confidence and competence in where I am today in small multifamily, residential, being a broker. I'm a realtor and I provide a great life for my family. I pick up a few rentals every year. My cash flows, like I'm comfortable in that scene. But that entrepreneur side of my brain that always wants to build, that always wants to push myself to boundaries, I feel like that's holding me back. And my wife, I feel like has been in a situation where she fully trusts me because I've provided this life, because I've and so it's something that holds me back. I know it's a limiting belief, and I am like the self-development, like I praise, I talk about that a lot. And here I am feeling like I want something bigger, but I'm scared. I'm scared that if I take this risk into something bigger, maybe I can't travel to Maui whenever I want and hang out with Brandon Turner. Maybe like I'm buying less rentals. Maybe my mortgage is harder to afford when I take this risk. Like, what's your advice in that world?
I think you are honestly more correct than maybe I was in that. And here's what I mean by that. It's like I think it's good that you're asking these questions, and you should be afraid. You should be afraid of losing your freedom and losing adding too much risk. I wish I would have thought more of that earlier on. And I'm not saying I necessarily screwed up on it. I just wish I would have realized the trade-off, because there is a trade-off to growth. And the trade-off is way more risk, and yes, more risk, more reward, but more risk, more risk. And you just keep taking risks, and you're going to end up with problems. And so and that could be like a bad real estate deal, but also just because I have 150 employees. It's a headache, to deal with it all. And I have, 12, 13 companies right now. To deal with, all of them are like, oh, it's just an hour a week. But it's never an hour a week. And then when it's a problem, it's 50 hours a week. And you got 11 other businesses at all. So those, I wish I would have had more questions around reducing risk and lifestyle as I was building it, because you can have your cake and eat it too. I mean, a simple example of that would be you could still have ambitions to say, hey, I'm going to build a big, whatever. I'm going to have 1,000 units. That's fine. And then you ask the question, well, how would I do that at a way that doesn't hurt my lifestyle and doesn't add undue risk? Because the problem with most entrepreneurs, almost every entrepreneur does this, is we double down continually. Like you're playing blackjack at the casino, and every time you play, you just double your bet. Eventually when you lose, you just lose everything. And so with entrepreneurs, you can just keep building and keep I'm going to go bigger, I'm going to scale. And then you just lose everything. So I would be asking the question, how do I get bigger without the risk of losing everything? And so that could be, there's a lot of answers to that question. It could be, I'm going to take a certain amount of properties and whatever and put it into a trust that is going to be shielded from any problems ever. And that's just, now I'm set for life with that, and I can go risk everything else. That'd be one way of looking at it. Or I'm going to go buy properties in all cash. That way I don't have to deal with any, and I'll refi them later. Now I don't have to worry about any risk of the market dropping in the middle of a rehab. So there's just different ways of approaching business when you approach with that risk. So, they say it's dangerous to be comfortable, and I get that. But it's also I don't want to spend my entire life uncomfortable. So that's a terrible answer in that I don't have an answer other than I don't think the answer is always scale and go bigger. I think that a lot of that is ego. In fact, Ben Hardy asked me that today. Dr. Ben Hardy, who wrote Who Not How and The Gap and the Gain and 10x is easier than 2x. And we talked about that. Why did I go build 4 years ago or 3 years ago when I left BiggerPockets? I built 4 or 5 companies all at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
It's a mortgage company, the Better Life Tribe, First Deal, the 50. I started all these at one time and put them out there, and they all kind of worked. And I asked them well, how do I balance between, having a lot of irons in the fire because I don't know which is going to work, And he said, a more fundamental question, Brandon, is why did you feel like you needed to start all 5? Like, were you broke? I'm like, well, no. He's like, well, why'd you start all 5 then? I don't know. He's like, could you have done one? Yeah. And I'm like, and the only answer I have is because it felt like I should, because it felt wrong not to do it. Like, it felt wrong not to swing is a line from that movie Signs with Mel Gibson. Like, it felt wrong not to swing. It felt wrong not to go for it. But why did it feel wrong? Because ego, because I know I can do it. I can do anything. I'm Brandon Turner. I can do it, And so like I started too many. So I don't know that the idea of like, taking more self-reflection and self-awareness in your growth of what do you actually want. So you're not building a business you're going to grow to hate. Not that I hate any of my businesses, but there are weeks where I'm like, I'm too rich and financially free to be working this many hours and have this much stress. Like, this is crazy.
Well, let's rewind a little bit there because you left BiggerPockets when you had 10,000 units. So
I think so, yeah.
You had started this commercial endeavor while you were in BiggerPockets. Walk me through your first steps. You realized you're on stage. You said, I want to be a part of these guys. I have more capabilities to grow.
Yep.
Boom. This is my vision. What's first step? You have to hire to build that type of operation.
Yep.
Like, walk me through your first steps of actually like your tactical aspect of building this commercial deal.
Yeah. So step 1 was just knowing where we're going to go, right? Defining the future, saying this is where I'm going to go. So defined it, 1,000 units, $50 million of real estate. Boom. Step 2, and I did this decently well with Open Door Capitals. I hired from the top down rather than the bottom up. Most people hire from the bottom up, meaning they hire the lowest paid person because that's what they can afford. So they hire the janitor or they hire the virtual assistant for $5 an hour so that they can buy back their time, to use Dan Martell's term, which I love that book, Buy Back Your Time. But like, you hire from the lowest level and then you elevate yourself and then you hire the next one below you and then you elevate and you slowly work your way up in the organization until you're only doing high level stuff. I did the opposite. I brought in my buddy Ryan Murdoch and I said, here, run the whole company and you build it out. And so I hired from the top and then he built the company out. Now I didn't have any money at the time. I mean, not enough that I'd want to risk it to go and just hire 10 employees and go build out a company. So instead, Ryan, I just gave him equity. And then he brought in more people, we gave equity, and then we gave profit sharing. And if this person was commission based, if we get a deal, they get paid. And so it was like, we didn't put any money in until we started making money. Once we started buying deals, then we started making money. Then we started actually paying salaries. Now, ultimately though, that is costing me probably hundreds of millions of dollars. Like, if I think about the amount of equity I've given away to my team, it's over half my companies. Like half of Open Door Capital is owned by my team and like partners. Well, that means that if we, make $1 billion someday, like I'm actually going to make $500 million. Like that might have cost me $500 million, like long term, just to avoid having to pay a few $100,000 in income. And you do what you got to do. I have no regrets. There's other reasons like to argue we would never get there without giving that equity. So it's a wash. And who cares anyway? Like, it's like not like I can spend that much money in my life anyway. If we get there, I couldn't spend it all anyway. So, that's what we did is we defined our vision. Where do you want to go? In fact, there's a thing I teach a lot called REIOS, the Real Estate Investors Operating System. It applies to almost anything. It's just 6 steps. Number 1 is tell the truth. Like, where are you right now? Like, exactly where are you? And I told the truth. I'm not happy to be where I am. So step 2, define your future vision or future self. Where do you want to get to? Step 3, you align your goals. So then I said, okay, well, we're going to have $50 million of real estate in 3 years. That's 1,000 units. That means this year we are going to do whatever it was. I think it was like, we're going to buy our first 2 mobile home parks this year. And that way we'll have 100 units by the end of the year. I think that was the goal. And then it's like, well, if that's the goal for the year, then what's our goal for the quarter? So then we set quarterly goals. If that's the goal for the quarter, what are our weekly rhythms, actions, habits, those things, which is the next step of REIOS after goal alignment is what are your habits and your actions? And so then we define them. We're going to talk to brokers 3 times a week. We're going to make this many offers. We're going to analyze this many properties. And then once you do that, then you add in the next component is accountability. So we have weekly meetings. We run on a program called EOS. You're probably familiar with that from the book Traction from Gino Wickman. We run on EOS. So we have accountability meetings every single week to make sure people are actually doing the work that line up to the goals, that lines up to the vision, that's based in reality or truth. So it all flows together. And then the last component is just continual improvement, which just means we're always looking at everything we just did and saying, how do we do it better next time? And so set better goals, set better actions, better habits, better education, better accountability, and you're just always improving. So that's how we built the companies, literally off those 6 steps. Was like, we took the truth, set a vision, set our goals, got our habits and actions aligned, and then held ourselves accountable to being better all the time.
So, I mean, it makes sense how you built it from me and my understanding, because you're Brandon Turner. And I'm saying that like, this is my genuine thoughts on it. You're Brandon Turner. People see a vision, people see potential because of your following, because of what you've built in the past. What advice do you have someone that's not Brandon Turner and building that operation?
Yeah.
Because equity is like invisible until there's something there, right?
Yeah. So a few things. One, attracting people. Yes, I got to attract some pretty good people because I'm Brandon Turner, but it had nothing to do with my ability on a podcast that attracted people. It had to do with my confidence. Anybody can. Like I said earlier, like, you do not follow me because I'm the smartest, strongest, or fastest. You follow me because I know where I'm going and you don't. So as soon as you know where you're going and let the world know, like 99% of the world is just going to follow you there. So attracting good talent is actually not that hard. I feel like no matter, as long as you're good at communicating vision. Now, obviously, if you're brand new, you got no connections, you can't just go out there and just put a sign on the side of the road saying, hey, who wants to come work for 25% equity in my company? Like, no one's going to trust you and believe you. Kind of goes back to the garbage thing. People got to be able to see that you're taking the garbage out year after year after year. So you had to build a reputation slowly. So what I did in building Open Door Capital, I did it faster than most people because I spent 10 years sharpening my axe. You ever heard that quote? Like, if I had 6 hours to chop down a tree, I would spend the first 4 sharpening my axe. So it's the prep work that matters so much. I spent 10 years sharpening my axe. And then I could swing really, really hard and really fast. Most people have not put in the 10 years of sharpening the axe. So that way, and they didn't see that's what I was doing, even though that's exactly what I was doing. And I knew that from day one. Not that where I would get to, but I just knew I was building a reputation, and that everything I did mattered. And so, yeah, people get upset that they can't build fast enough or scale fast enough. I'm like, well, you didn't sharpen your axe yet. So go sharpen your axe. You don't have to take 10 years to do it. So anyway, going back to the question though, is like, advice I'd give for other people is, one, just be really clear with the vision, where you headed. You don't have to necessarily hire people with the experience needed. I hire more for character than I do experience. Now that changes as you get bigger and bigger. In the beginning, you're not going to go and be able to hire the VP of Blackstone to come over and be your VP. They're just not going to leave you. There's zero chance you can afford them, or even if you could afford them, that they'd believe in you. But you can hire the guy at the coffee shop who's really, really, really good with customers. And you're like, that guy is incredible. Every time I'm in that coffee shop, he is world-class and he makes $8 an hour. That guy is going to be my investor relations guy. And he doesn't have to know how to do all this stuff, but I'm going to bring him in and train him because he's got the skill set and the character and the personality and the culture fit and the intelligence. I can teach the how-to. And those guys are way cheaper. So like my investor relations guy, he worked at a church. He was a pastor at a church. My CEO today, who was COO, who was my acquisitions manager, kind of moved up in the ranks. He worked as a financial something, like low-level financial person at a public utility company. I can go on and on. Most of my guys, almost everybody, came from some obscure job that didn't make a lot of money. And I found talent and then I made them good. And now I'm at a point where I can go out there. If I'm going to go hire someone right now, I'm going to go hire someone who's world-class, probably the VP from Blackstone. I can do that. But in the beginning, you don't hire your friends. You don't hire the people you like. You just hire the person who's genuinely going to be amazing at that role. They just don't know it yet. So it's like every 80s or 90s, like, teen movie. It was like, you got to get the hot girl before she knows she's hot. It's like she's still wearing glasses and she hasn't taken them off yet to realize she's actually drop dead gorgeous.
Her braces are still on.
Exactly. Yeah, she's got braces and glasses, and so everyone's like, oh, look at her. And then like you just got to get the braces off. And so yeah, that's the secret to hiring really good people, is get the girl with braces and glasses. And that's literally what I did with that. When it comes to raising capital, though, again, I spent 10 years sharpening my axe, so I could go raise capital faster than most. However, I love to point this out, is my first fund, I had a massive email list. I had massive amounts of followers on Instagram, hundreds of thousands of people. And our first fund was just a $3 million fund. It was supposed to be 5. We couldn't get past 3. We had to shut it down at 3. We just couldn't raise it. And I'm Brandon Turner. Like, I am the guy from the biggest podcast in the real estate world. And I couldn't raise $3 million because I didn't have the track record. I didn't have a reputation, didn't have anything. So in other words, I'm starting on like second base or third base, but not as big of a difference as you'd think. In fact, I have some influencer friends that are way bigger than me, have way bigger followings from me, that haven't been able to raise $3 million period for their real estate in 5 years. Now I've raised $490 million. And so like those guys are bigger than me. They can't raise capital. I mean, some of them have TV shows and they just can't raise capital because they don't have they didn't do the work day in and day out for months and years at a time to be able to do that. So I just like whenever people like want to use my story or other people who have done a really big thing and say, well, it must be because of that. It's like, well, part of it definitely was because of that, but that just gave me a little bit of an edge. Like it doesn't give you that much of an edge. Yes, you should go be an influencer if you want to raise capital. It definitely helps. But there's people who have raised a lot more capital than me that nobody would ever have heard of. And then there's people that are way more popular than me that have not raised anything, even though they tried.
Yeah. And that's like the ignorance of people that don't see what you've been doing on the sidelines, me included, right? Like, I don't know what you do on the side. I don't know all that work you've been putting in for 10, 15 years. So that's a good reminder, especially like for me, like the grass is not always greener on the other side. And that's where I go back and forth of, could I do this? Of course, like if I set my mind to something, like I kind of have that false confidence that I can achieve it if I set my mind and I get into the weeds, right? But it's always that risk. Yeah. And that's like, do I want this? Am I gonna sacrifice all this back here? And at the end of the day, am I gonna like my life more than I do now? Like it's a scary, scary feeling. But
imagine like you wanted to, like, let's say you have a comfortable life. Let's say somebody listen to this. They got a pretty comfortable life. They make a good job. They work a 30-hour-a-week job because they get pretty relaxed. They make 6 figures doing it. It's a relatively secure job. Like, should they go out there and quit their job and go start some entrepreneurial business? Like, I don't know. I mean, I think you should take care of your future. But like, unless you have a real passion for it, like, design the life you want and then try to build a business or a mechanism to get there. Yeah. Versus like, oh, I saw Brandon Turner did this big thing, I'm going to go do what he did. That might not be the answer for you. And so, I think there's a tendency to assume that, again, scale, growth, get bigger is the answer. And it's not always the answer, though it could be. I mean, I have fun. In fact, I said this to Heather the other day. I was like the last, now, what am I doing? 7 years of building Open Door Capital, 6 years. Let's just say worst case scenario, the market just tanks, like destroys everything I have. Mm-hmm. Every piece of real estate I own goes to zero. The economy crashes, robots come in or whatever. Like, I wouldn't regret any of it. Like, what I mean, like, I had super fun building it. Like, what else is it going to do? Watch TV all day? Like you got to do something anyway. So why not do something cool and big? It just, that's where I just was cautioned and just put it within the, how do I want my life to be along the way? Like when I built Open Door Capital, I did not ever put in 100-hour work weeks at Open Door Capital because I got kids. Yeah. I couldn't do 100 hours. When I did BiggerPockets, I was doing 100 hours and I loved every second of it. Like, we were doing just morning to, like, the time I woke up, first thing I do before getting out of bed, I'd get on a Zoom call with Josh. And the last thing at night, I'd be on a Zoom call with Josh. And we'd just be on for, 18 hours sometimes. And it was insane. But that was okay at the time. And that's what I loved. So anyway.
And I love that you said that, because one thing that you told me when we first met, Brandon, whether that was 3 months, 6 months ago, when we decided that timeline, I told you that my fear of scaling was sacrificing family. I thought those were synonymous. Mm-hmm. And something that you told me, I don't know if you remember this, you said, like, when you scaled, you actually felt like you had more time with your family because you're doing less of what you didn't want to do.
If you scale right, you should be able to scale. Like, the answer to I don't have enough time is usually to get bigger, not get smaller, right? Like, if you own one rental property, it's going to take you a ton of time to manage it and deal with it. But you own 1,000 rental properties, it doesn't take any time at all if you did it right, because you have people. Now, if you're trying to physically manage 1,000 people, you're going to be burned out. But oftentimes, the best answer to financial freedom is actually to scale up, not to scale down. And so, if you can scale up correctly, and that means having people, having the right systems and processes, having like again, the idea of what I'm willing to do, what I'm not willing to do, here's my hours, how may I work, and then fitting in a system that works that, you can get, like, for sure you can get out of it. I mean, I have a company right now called First Deal. It's firstdeal.com. We teach people how to buy their very first investment property. that is the most profitable business outside of maybe Open Door Capital in terms of equity, but like the most profitable cash flow business I have by far. Makes more than all the other ones combined.
Really?
Yeah, it's super profitable. It's 20 minutes a week of work for me. I show up for 20 minutes on a call, I talk for a little bit, and I leave. Why? Because I set it up that way in the beginning. I said, I don't run this. Scott, I hired this guy named Scott. He's great. Scott, you're like acting COO. And I'm like, I hired a woman named Megan. Megan, you're head of product right now. You're running all this. And you're doing this, and you're doing this. And here's a system we run inside of called EOS, which we talked about. And this is the vision. Here's where we're going to go. And so like, they don't need a whole lot from me. I mean, I did a 30-minute call with a marketing team today to talk about it. And then I'll be on a 20-minute call tomorrow for it. And that's about it. Now, again, I sharpened my axe for 10 years to get there. But the most profitable thing I do and the biggest business I'm running is the least amount of time because I scaled it right.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I love that answer.
So I know I'm fairly well off financially, right? But did you know I still house hack? Like, that's right. I've got an extra couple units at my house here in Maui, and I decided to actually rent one of them out because, hey, it's like almost $2,000 a month, and I'm an investor, so why not? Do you know the first thing I did when I decided to rent that out? I went to turbotenant.com because there I can advertise the unit, screen for potential tenants, sign the state-specific lease, get automatic rent payments set up, track my income and expenses, and even communicate with my new tenant via the app. It literally made the process so much easier. So whether you've got, one unit or a ton of units, check out turbotenant.com. I love it, and I know you will too. Let them know I sent you.
Walk me through. I know you've had anyone who's been investing for as long as you have had deals that have gone south, right? Sure. And I've heard you chime in on a couple from previous podcasts. I'd love to hear, they talk about not taking work home, right? And as an entrepreneur, it feels like my work comes home a lot because I don't have like a set hours. Like my day doesn't end at 5. There's Tuesdays that I get off and get to go do whatever with my wife. And that's the joys of entrepreneurship, but it doesn't feel like work ends at a time, right? So talk to me about like the roller coasters of real estate. Maybe a deal went south. Maybe you're not hitting your raise amount. How do you balance that? Again, no one's ever perfect, but what do you do to try and be that sturdy dad, that rock for your family, and a husband too?
Yeah. I mean, the last year has been the hardest year of real estate I've ever had by far. I mean, it's been a challenging year. Multifamily is just killing me. And, interest rates are double what they were, which means the value of properties has dropped by 20 to 50% on some of our multifamily. It's like, we have to deal with that. You have to survive, and you have to try to still buy more properties and keep the lights on. It's been a hard year. And so I've learned a lot about that, how to operate in challenges. So, I mean, specifically I'll give you a small example that we can get to bigger ones. The small one, I flipped a house one time with my wife. We did it together. We worked on it every day for a year. And then I lost 15 grand on it, like a year of our life in that. And it's hard to not look at that and just be like, this sucks, and be all grumpy at home. I mean, this sounds cliche, but I really looked at it as well, in 20 years from now, when we're worth hundreds of millions of dollars, does it matter we lost 15 grand? No. The lessons learned in that year, even the hard lessons, I shouldn't have done all the work myself, and I should have not flipped a house that was super weird. I flip a normal looking house, not a weird one. And so all these lessons learned will make me more than 15 grand. So did I lose 15 grand, or did I make hundreds of thousands or millions in lessons? Probably made millions in lessons. So flipping that script, that's helped a lot. And then the last year, just of things going hard, right? Again, the value of property is just plummeting. For example, we have a property in Austin. Austin's properties are just plummeting right now. And it's I'll be on calls for 4 hours with Open Door Capital and trying to navigate this and trying to do some tax abatement thing to try to get cash flow and trying to get the property manager to do more. And then having to go home when, it's 15 feet away into my house, and all of a sudden be super dad, and the kids are like, let's go jump on the trampoline. And I'm like, so a couple things that I've done to do that. Number one is I just remember they didn't sign up for any of this. So that they don't deserve any of my negative emotions, because this is just I chose this, so I'm going to keep this problem. To help with that, I can't remember where I first read this, but when I have a really crappy day at work, a really just dumpy day, everything's going wrong. When I walk in, I think of the doorpost above my door, like going into my front door or my back door. And I literally think of like tapping that. I don't always hit it, but sometimes I do. And that's like, I'm going to leave my problems here, my emotions here. And this is the act of like tapping that, doorpost or whatever you call it, top of a door. That alone, like signals my whole body like, oh yeah, I'm going to leave that here. And it actually works. Like I can compartmentalize when I get home and I can be fully with my kids. And again, not perfect. There'll be times I'm just like zoning out. And my wife's like, what are you thinking about? I'm like, sorry. Like, I'm just like not listening to her because I'm stewing on a problem. But at least just that like physical reminder, like they'll be here when I come back. Like I can put it right here. In fact, some people, like I've heard of a practice where on like Saturday night or Sunday night, whatever they do for like a day off or a weekend, they'll put their problems, they'll write them on a piece of paper, put it in a box and then shut the box and be like, those problems will be here when I come back in 24 hours. But right now I'm going to leave them here. And I love that. I love that practice. I also remind myself often that no matter how bad things could get, like let's say again, market crashes, robots come and take our jobs, all my real estate goes to zero, everyone hates me. Everything we're doing, we're just none of this is real. Like what I mean by that, not like in the sense of like we're all simulation, but like the only things humans were really designed to do and that we're built to do is like pick berries, kill other animals, have sex, and raise kids. Like those 4 things is all humans are designed to do. Everything else we just manufactured, like clothing. We just made this up. We made up couches. We made up flooring. We made up real estate. We made up all of this. And we're just like, look what we made. But it's all like, none of it is real. None of it's lasting. None of it goes with us. The only thing that really matter are those like 4 things. And so like, let's just do those 4 things right. Like eat good food, raise kids, make babies and raise them right. And if that's all I do at the end of my life, even if everything else fell apart and I ended up living in a van down by the river, it's like, well, I did those 4 things right. I ate and I enjoyed a family life. So that always brings me back to like, oh yeah, this doesn't really matter. And if it's not one of those 4 things going wrong, then I don't really have any problems per se, right? Now, if my kid's sick, which like my daughter's sick right now, it's like she just got the flu or I don't know, something, probably COVID and we're all getting it now. Sorry. But no, she's like sick on the couch. That's a real problem. And if she got cancer, one of my kids got cancer, that's a real problem. Like that's hard. But like, oh, I didn't buy enough real estate this year. It's like, that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And so just reframing that, like none of this actually really matters. I can't take any of it with me. All I can take is my character, maybe, and my kids. Yeah, that helps a lot. There's a lot there.
I'm going to write that down. When I get this recording, I'm going to take some notes on it. Talk to me about family, like your wife, your kids, and how that plays into like your ambitions and your goals in the life that you're building.
Yeah. A number of ways. I mean, one, I don't care about my kids. I don't use my kids as a reason to build wealth because I don't want them to have it anyway. I'm not a big believer in transferring wealth to my kids. I just think that wealth does more harm than good, maybe sometimes, especially when it's not earned.
Yeah.
And so I hope I train my kid up good enough to be able to learn how to handle my kids, good enough to be able to handle wealth. But I don't have a big desire to leave them a huge inheritance. So it's not like I'm building wealth for the next generation necessarily. I look at more of like the skill set. Like I want to teach my kids very much the skill sets to build wealth because I just think there's really important skills like working hard, doing the boring work, outsourcing eventually, leading people, having vision. Those things matter in life, whether they become school teachers or firemen or real estate investors. So I'm working a lot with them on that stuff. I would love them to be entrepreneurs in some way. If they choose to be a school teacher or fireman, like that's great too. Again, the skills will still apply to them. Or if like let's say my daughter's like, I just want to like, whatever, be a missionary. I'm like, okay, well, maybe I can then use my wealth to support you. You can go out and do that work, which is probably more important than what I'm doing anyway. So, great. So I look at it that way. I want my kids to see me working hard. And that's hard as a white collar worker. You know what I mean? Like, cause they don't see me working. Like that literally I sit on a phone. Most of my work honestly is on my phone. Like I spend so much time texting people.
Yeah.
So what my kids see me scrolling Instagram or TikTok is the same they see me working. That's a problem. Like, how do I get my kids to actually see me do work when it's usually just this or this? That's been an interesting thing to try to figure out. And so I've physically been giving myself like manual labor jobs more often lately around my house. and then making my kids help with it just so they see dad actually works. And as they get older, I know, like, I mean, my son's 5. He's the main one I'm concerned about. Like, he's 5. When he's older, he'll see that I'm doing real work, and I'm going to be very deliberate about raising them. I'm a big believer in like raising your kids, not just letting them raise themselves, like being like, there's a book called The Intentional Father from John Tyson. That's solid. A book about raising kids, specifically boys, but it's just raising kids intentionally throughout their whole teenage years. So anyway, I want them to see me working hard. I want them to learn those skill sets. And I want my wife to see me working hard as well. Like, again, like, would I want a spouse, if I was a woman, would I want a husband who's like, yeah, he's really good at pickleball and he plays it every day and he golfs actually every day as well. Yeah, that's all he does. Like, or would I be like, I want a husband who's like, gets after it and goes out there and tries. Like, I want a warrior. Yeah. I don't want like a spectator, right? So I want, and my wife, she wants to see me in the arena. This is man in the arena quote, right? Like, the credit goes to the man who's actually in the arena, like the blood, sweat, and like dirt and gross, because he tried. Even if he fails, he tried. And he dared something great. And that is super attractive to most partners, women and men. Like, I want to see my wife working hard. I don't want to see her on her phone or watching soap operas all day long. Yeah. Like, that's not attractive. I want to see her doing something that she's going to put her heart and soul into. And so that's a big piece of that drives me as well, is like, I want my wife to be like, dang, yeah, that guy. Like, and yeah.
I love that.
There's a lot there.
That cracks me up because I'm in a scenario. My dad has been an excellent example of hard work growing up. And that's like doing our landscaping, right? Like mowing the lawn, our chores around the house, like me asking for allowance. And he said, it's the roof over your head and the dinner on the table. Like, that's how I grew up, right? And as I've grown up, I have learned, my dad was a perfectionist, loved the man to death. But like working with him was like, you got to tweak it to be perfect or else you're getting like ostracized, right? And so now I've navigated away from the blue collar hard work, and I express my hard work into the white collar realm, right? And so a couple years ago, I started hiring out my lawn to be mowed. And that was like, especially to my dad, he's probably just like,
yeah, my parents think I'm insane for that. Yeah.
So that was like the first step. And I think back to my wife's dad is even more the blue collar, like he built his home from scratch. Like, he is that guy. And so I'm sure at the beginning of our marriage, there was reservation of like, is this guy going to provide? Like, who is this guy? He doesn't have any calluses on his hands. He doesn't, but I've grown to be really close with my wife's dad as he's kind of seen my hard work as a very different, I show it a lot differently in the white collar realm, but I've never heard it in the perspective of your kids, right? Because I'm the same way. I'm like facing a screen all the time. And even like when my wife's with the baby and I'm like working and she's like, are you scrolling TikTok? Like, come help me. And anyway, so I love that you said that. But
my most viral post, I think of the last year, was a tweet I put out there that I read somewhere else online. But it said there's 3 levels of wealth. You mow your own grass, you don't mow your own grass, and then you mow your own grass. And I love that concept because it's like, early on we do all the manual labor because we have to. Then we learn, if we outsource this, we could work on more important things. And then once I got the freedom, I can go actually do because there's such value in doing the work too. Yeah. Like, I like doing the work. Now, I still don't mow my own grass. Like, I still choose to outsource that. But I won't always. Like, in fact, I hope someday I get to a point where I just have the time to be able to go out there and mow the grass. It's hard though with kids because, like, for example, the other day, we have house cleaners that come once a week that just do all the deep cleaning, right? And like, my daughter says, she's 9 or almost 9. She said, I was like, hey, you need to go clean up your room. You got your toys everywhere. She goes, oh, the cleaners will do that. I was like, hell no. Like, I was like, no. But then I'm like, okay, what did I do that made her think that that's like okay to be like, oh, the cleaners will take care of my mess? I'm like, are they cleaning up my mess? No, I mean, they do laundry. So maybe that's what she's thinking. Clearly, that's something I'm working through is I also want her to learn how to outsource. I want her to learn how to lead and do high value tasks. But she also has to learn how to put away her toys, I think. And I'm not exactly sure as a father how to navigate that world of like outsourcing. I like what I can't remember what basketball player it is, but he says like, he told his kids, "You're not rich, I'm rich." like you're
I think
you're
it's
pretty
Shaq,
broke. Yeah, I think it was Shaq.
right?
Yeah. I don't know what you're talking about. You're not rich. I'm very rich. You're broke. And so I like that concept as well.
That's funny.
Trying to teach my kids that. But the last thing I try like to lean my kids into like entrepreneurial stuff, even at a young age. So example, my daughter, this is going back about a year, maybe 6 months ago. She goes, "I have an idea, Mom and Dad." I said, "Okay, what's your idea?" She goes, "Well, you know how you want a new house?" And I said, "Yeah, we'd like to buy a new house. And you know how you said that we don't want to buy one because we can't afford it yet?" And I was like, "Okay, yeah." Because like the house we want would be pretty darn expensive. And she said, "I know how we're going to get there." We said, "Okay, how's that?" And she goes, "Chickens. Let's get chickens and sell the eggs." And we're like, okay. So like the next day we went and bought 9 chickens, like little chicks, and she raised them, and then she does a lot of the work and feeds them and washes the eggs, and she doesn't do everything, but she does a lot of the work. And then we bought a new house.
That's amazing.
That's where we're at right now. So I bought this house. Now, did the chickens get us there? No, but like she doesn't actually know that. I don't think that the chickens didn't get us the new house. What she saw was an entrepreneurial thing got us a dream that we wanted. And so she's learning those lessons, even with chickens, where I think most parents probably look at that and go, "Yeah, oh yeah, honey, that's cute, that's silly," and then not do anything with it. But I'm like, "No, let's go get the chickens." And so those are conversations we're having. The other day we were driving to ice cream, and we started talking about opening up a booth at the farmer's market, and we started running numbers and talking about what she would sell there, and like what's the profit and the margins and all. We were having a great conversation for a good hour on the way and back from ice cream. And so the more I can try to do that kind of work with them, the more likely I think they'll catch the idea of entrepreneurship, right? Because entrepreneurship can't be taught as much as it's caught, right, by our kids. Like they catch it because they see it. But I can't just tell them, "You're going to go start a business and this is what you're going to do, honey." And they're like, "Yeah, Dad, whatever." They won't listen.
Yeah. I love it. Talk to me. I feel like a lot of my audience, Brandon, is these young hustlers. Like Utah is full of them.
Yeah.
These young hustlers that like genuinely want a relationship with their family. They genuinely want to build this family unit. But they also have this like yearning for success, right? And sometimes like that can get mixed in the weeds. I think of like Miami lifestyle and then Utah, like these two opposite, but they both are striving for wealth just in a different, like what's your advice in that realm of, I know you said you can have your cake and eat it too, but like expound on that, the wealth and family and combining the two.
Yeah. How do I want to like me go? I'll say this. Like family is the only thing I think that really actually matters, right? Ultimately, like at the end of your life, you're never going to be like, "Oh, I wish I made more money." So I think you have to be a family man or woman, but a family man that has a business, not a businessman that has a family. And I stole that line from a group called Front Row Dads. Is there a group of family men who have businesses, not businessmen who have families? And it's a subtle shift, right? But the idea says like, I am family first, and I will then optimize for that. Now, to be a good family man, I need my kids to say I work hard. We need to have much money to provide. I want to have money to provide for them and to do fun stuff and travel and not work 80 hours a week where I can't ever see them. But all those things are optimized for the family, not for the business. And so the business comes second. So I think that's important. And this is where I would say like Miami culture probably destroys that, whereas Miami culture, like sorry for all you Miami people, but it's like Miami culture is like in a lot of places where it's like hustle, grind. And then people wake up and they're 45 years old and they have no kids and they have no spouse and they're single and they've missed their years of being able to have a family. And I'm not saying those people are just doomed for misery the rest of their life. I'm sure there's a lot of benefits to being single in Miami, but like you miss out on a lot of it because you were optimizing for the wrong thing. You were climbing the ladder leaned against the wrong wall. And so just keeping that in mind is like, what's most important? Family. And then leaning into that and saying, okay, well, now how do I optimize for that? I think is the advice I'd give people like that. And also, there are phases in life. For example, when you're in your young 20s, like hustle so incredibly hard. Put in the 100-hour work weeks when you're 20 and 21, 22, 23, 24. Don't neglect dating. That's important too. But like, put in the work when you have the time to put in the work. Because as somebody, now you as well, like we have got little kids, like you do not have the time anymore. As your kids grow and you have multiple kids, then you really don't have the time. I thought of this last night as I feel like parenting sometimes is like, it's like, you go to the gym and you're let's say you're benching and you're like benching even a fairly light weight. You do it 10 times and then you set it down and you're done for a little bit. I'm like, parenting is like you're benching that like, decent weight. And then you don't put it down. You literally never put it down. You just keep benching for 20 years. And it's like, there's no break. I mean, maybe you get a vacation where your in-laws watch your kids for a week, but like, even that, the whole time you're stressed about what your kids are doing when you're not there. And so there are phases in life. And when you're in your 20s, hustle like insane, set up yourself well. So that way, when you're in your 30s and 40s, and you got a little bit older kids, you don't have to put in that time. But the vast majority of the world does the other way. Is they goof off their 20s. They start trying in their 30s when they have a kid. Now all of a sudden they have to hustle and they can't see their kids. And so by the time they get free, their kids are now 18 and out of the house and they hate their parents and you're on your third wife. And like, that's a terrible recipe.
Yeah, I agree. Well, Brandon, as you know, I have my first kid, 6-month-old. This is our first trip with her. So it's
exciting.
Exciting and crazy at the same time. But
how'd they do on the plane?
She actually did good, but she picked up this screaming habit, like not like crying, but like at restaurants, literally, she just wants to be heard. And so that's been stressing my wife out. She thinks everyone's like hating our table. And
that's funny.
Anyways,
when was the baby born? What was the date?
November 7th.
Okay, mine was November 18th.
Oh, look at that.
Close,
Amazing.
Yeah.
But I mean, like this adjustment to fatherhood, especially as an entrepreneur, is like, it's nowhere near what the wives have to go through. And they're like, so I'm not trying to compare myself to that, but it is like a massive shift, like mentally, physically, less sleep, right? Everything. I'd love to hear like what phase of life you were in, what part of your business you were in, and how you adapted in general in that world.
Yeah. First kid, when Rosie was born, 9 years ago, the first kid, not to put light to what you're going through, but the first kid was by far the easiest because my wife was one-on-one. She could just take the baby. She took care of her most of the time at night and days and all that. She was fine with that. When the second kid came, and so I worked a lot actually when the baby was born because like my wife would just lay in bed with the baby nursing all day. It was like a fairly light for her. She didn't have to go to work. She had quit her job right before that. So that was actually doable and fairly easy. And we could travel again. You just have one car seat and pretty simple. The second kid came when Wilder came. He did not sleep for the first 2 years. Like I'm pretty sure it's Guinness Book of World Records for not sleeping, I'm sure. Because like 2 years of just no sleep. It was terrible and colicky and all that. And that put a huge stress on our marriage and on our life and on our business and everything. Because like when you don't sleep for more than 15 minutes at a time for 2 years, like it's just hell on your decision making and on everything. So that was tough. We got through it though. You just do. You power through. Every parent does. And now with 3 kids, it's been not as bad as most people because my daughters are old enough to be able to help a little bit. Where if you had 3 little kids, it'd be rough. Mm-hmm. But it still is. I forget how intense it is with little kids. Like it's just like they're just unable to do anything, and like your wife's fairly unable to do anything.
Yeah.
Maybe some people wives and yours are just super wise, but like. It's hard to cook, hard to clean, hard to take care of the family. The car is a mess because it's like the kids screaming when you get out of the car, so they don't have time to clean the car. So everything is just now put back on me again. So I'm in the phase right now where I'm doing 90% of the cooking. I'm doing 90% of like the doctor appointments and the all that stuff because like all Heather can do is take care of a human and keep that baby alive. Now at 6 months is getting easier, of course, and they both easier and harder as they start moving and crawling eventually, but. Anyway, but I'm just so thankful that in my 20s, I built the foundation so that in my 30s, and now I'll be 40 in a month. Shoot, wow, I'll be 40. That like
really worth it.
Yeah, I have that flexibility where I can be like, I'm just going to take the afternoon off. That's happened numerous times over the last few weeks where I'm just like, taking the day off, clear my schedule, and my assistant will just clear my schedule.
That's amazing.
And you couldn't do that if you have a job or if you are early on in your career and you have to get the work done, or if you're a salesperson and you don't work, you don't eat.
Yeah.
So
that's where I'm at in my career, where I feel like I'm an entrepreneur through and through, but I have a job.
Yep.
It's a well-paying job, but I have a job. Like as a realtor, as like my realm. I have other businesses, but it's like I was sick for 3 days and I got fired by a client. And I was like, I can't do this for 5 more years, 10 more years.
Yeah, that's why I don't like being a real estate. I've never been one. But that's why I didn't become a real estate agent, because it feels a little too much like a job.
It very much is. Yeah. So that's my like discovery right now. But I got
But it's better than a job. So like,
that's true. Yeah.
right? It's better than going to work for someone else where you get one set of money and you never get more than that. Like, it's still better than a job, but it's not as great as having just passive income from rentals or something.
100%. Yeah. I mean, like coming on this vacation, I'm sacrificing a lot because I'm like not doing the work at home, but I don't have to report to anyone. And that stress alone, like, is amazing. Right. So there's always like something better.
Yeah.
As an entrepreneur, you're always like, I want this, I want that. And then you get there and then you're like, no, now I want this, now I want that. But I have one last question for you, Brandon. Sure. What's the end goal? Like, let's call it 10 years. In business, in family, like what is the end goal that you see, that you strive, that gets you motivated to wake up in the morning?
It's a good question. Like I have numbers like, I'd love to give away $50 million and I'd love to have $1 billion net worth someday. Those are all fairly irrelevant and kind of made up, and they don't really mean much other than making my ego feel good. I want my kids to be healthy, and I want them to be strong, and I want them to be kind, and like those are things that actually matter. I want them to be, I want them to look up to me. I want my wife to just fall in love with me, even when we're 50 and 60 and 70, to still look at me like I'm attractive. Like I want those things. That's success more than anything else. I want my family to look at me and like what they see, and I want to look at them and like what I see. In addition to that, like I love to work. We all love to work. I mean, that's why like most of us are built that way if we're at this level. And so I want to be able to still like enjoy what I do. Steve Jobs has that great quote. It's from one of his commencement speeches he gave on like, when I look in the mirror in the morning and I don't like what I see too many days in a row, I know I need to change something. It's like, I want to be like, 80, 90% of my days, like I love what I do, and that's fun. And right now I'm probably sitting at like 70%, where like most of what I do, I really enjoy, maybe 60%. And then 40%, I'm like, I have to do this, or I don't really want to do that. So I want to get to a point where I'm like 99% maybe, like I love what I do. And that's not working. It's just working on cool stuff that's creative and fun, and it isn't just a pain. So that's success, I guess, in 10 years from now is probably a bit more travel. This sounds stupid, but like kind of like, Gary Vaynerchuk has like that he wants to buy the New York Jets someday. Yep. He doesn't actually care about the New York Jets. He said that. It's a good like beacon. That's a symbol of like, I want to be at that level, that's a doable thing. For me, it's like literally like, I just want like a Gulfstream, like a good, like fancy private jet. I don't actually want it. It'd be cool, but even if I had the money, I don't know if I'd buy it, but I want a jet, like a real nice private jet. I got a friend right now trying to decide between if he's going to buy the $50 million jet or the $70 million jet, because the $70 million jet has an extra like 4 inches of height, and he could stand up full height in it. He's a tall guy. And the other one, he's like, and he can't decide, and it's $20 million difference on whether or not $20 million is worth being able to stoop a little bit. And I'm like, I want those problems. Like that's the level of problems I want.
There's levels.
Yeah, there's levels of it. I want to decide which jet I'm going to buy, 50 or 70 million, because it's symbolic of I've made it to a certain level of freedom. And so that's what I'm working on.
I love it. Well, Brandon, any last advice that you'd give to like young entrepreneurs that are trying to make it, like even like real estate specific? Like, I feel like that's where you've had a lot of influence in. What advice would you get? Like one last piece of advice you'd give to that group of people?
Yeah, maybe coming back full circle to what I talked about earlier is you get the results of what you repeatedly do. Like it's the boring stuff that gets you everything you want in life. So whether you're a real estate agent or an entrepreneur or whatever, like it's the boring stuff that gets you there, and you have to do the boring stuff until you can afford to hire someone and build a system that the boring stuff gets done without you. I think most people want to get the results, but they don't want to do the boring stuff. Yeah. But they're not at a level where they can hire the boring stuff, so then nothing ever gets done. And so the advice I have is like, just become somebody who can do the boring work day in and day out. And the best tool I have for that is like just habit tracking. Like when you track things, you're just better at it. Automatically, you're going to be more consistent and more persistent with it. And then add some accountability on that. And so if you want to be a better real estate investor, what's the work that you have to do? There's maybe we could list 20 things. It's probably more like 10, right? Go to a local meetup, take investors out to coffee, analyze deals, make offers, send some kind of marketing, whether it's SMS, direct mail, whatever. Talk to your real estate agent. What is that? 6 things, 7 things? Like there's not a lot. It's very simple stuff, and it's all stuff that takes very little time, very little effort, very little money. You just do the stuff and you do it over and over and over. So it's like, well, yeah, I took a guy out to lunch one time. Yeah, I take a guy out to lunch every single week for the next 2 years straight. Different person every week for 2 years. It's 100 investors you would take out to lunch. Guarantee one of those will sell you their property. Maybe 10 of them will. Probably more than that. And just nobody does it. People do it one time and then they don't do it again. So get good at doing the boring stuff over and over and over until you can hire other people to do the boring stuff over and over and over. And that's how you succeed.
I love it. Thank you, Brandon. I have one last note. When I was doing this podcast endeavor, well, I guess we'll rewind to the beginning of my career when I was listening to BiggerPockets all the time and just like completely obsessed with real estate. Still am to this day. But I was like, one day I'm going to be on the BiggerPockets talking to Brandon about my story. Like, how can I get there? And that was what like viewed to me of like making it, right? Yeah. And even though it was like a weird way to measure at the time.
And I left.
Yeah, exactly. But so I like fast forward, I got on to BiggerPockets for like one of my L's. Like I lost 180 grand on a sub 2 deal. Anyways, didn't imagine that's how I'd get on to BiggerPockets.
That's
so
funny.
anyways, I get on there and I was like, this isn't quite the full circle moment that I was envisioning. Maybe it's because I had this fat L, maybe because Brandon's not here, but I appreciate this feels more full circle of having a conversation with you. So I appreciate that. And hopefully it's the first of many conversations.
It's awesome, man. Appreciate you. Thanks for having me on.
Of course, brother. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Better Life Podcast. We hope you enjoy the show. I hope you got some valuable insights to help you lead a better life for you and your family. Now, hey, if you found value in this episode, please consider leaving us a rating and review on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback helps us to improve the show, helps us reach more people with this message of living that better life. And be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. And hey, before I go, this show is all about the habits, actions, beliefs, and strategies that can give you a better life. But in case you're interested and you want to know my opinion on what it takes to live the best life, not just better, and that's from like a more spiritual and faith standpoint, check out abetterlife.com/bestlife. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time on the Better Life Podcast.